What up, guys? Welcome to the newest installment of Randy Taste Things here on Randy and Dave's Place, hottest place on YouTube still. I know we've been on a little hiatus here. It has definitely been a while since we have posted, but we were just on a little hiatus. You know, we upgraded a little bit of equipment. We did a little
the same phone to
experimentation with a few things. Came up with a few ideas.
I'm not
But here we are,
impressed.
back
Couldn't even
in
make
the
my
saddle
mouth move.
again, as Aerosmith would say. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to drink some Horse Soldier Bourbon here. They do have 3 different expressions. It is made in Somerset, Kentucky. Horse Soldier was started by a group of gentlemen who were literally horse soldiers. They rode into Afghanistan on horseback and took out some terrorists. These are my kind of dudes. I like it. Anyway, if you watch any of the
RNC, while he rambles on about the RNC,
you would have
let me
seen
tell you
one
a
of
little
the
bit more
founders
about Horse
spoke
Soldier.
there.
The Green Berets that started the company
Of course, he didn't speak about his product per se. He just spoke about being a horse soldier and supporting.
The steel was melted
not supporting
down and
Democrats,
molded
which
into the
seems
glass
just
of
like
the
a smart
bottle.
idea, whether
That's
you
pretty
rode
cool.
horses in the battle or not. Neither here nor there. I'm going to talk about some other things along the way. We have been scouring the web, watching some of the most ridiculous films you could ever imagine. I'm going to discuss those a little bit. I'm going to have some sports commentary. And of course, I'm going to tell you all about the whiskeys here. Now, I have decided that since these are 3 expressions of the same bourbon per se, I'm probably only going to drink this because it'll wreck my palate otherwise, and I really won't know what I'm talking about. If I drink all 3 of them, by the time I get to that 3rd one, my palate's wrecked, and I'm really not going to know what I'm saying anyway. Even though I've had it before, I'm still just going to be guessing at that point because your palate gets wrecked. You really can't just jump from whiskey to whiskey to whiskey without thoroughly cleansing your palate. But but let's talk a little bit about. I'm probably just going to go to the head of the class. I'm going to drink the Reserve, which is the barrel strength version of the Horse Soldier, because that's my style. But let's talk about these films. And we have watched some doozies. I'm going to tell you that. Some of these things, I don't know how they even made it past like the idea room. But some of them, you know what? The one I'm going to talk about specifically, since it is crime time, we watched one about a family who moved to Norway because the man of the family, uncle died and left him his home in Norway. The gentleman was played by, if you're a Tulsa King fan, old Bodie there on Tulsa King. He was the father here in this movie. But anyway, moves his family to Norway, which seems pretty wild, you know. But they did it. They went on out there. It was Christmas time, snow all over the place. Well, the son, Lucas, soon discovers that there's something living in the barn. Well, after some investigating, he found an elf, a barn elf, living in the barn. So they go into town, and there's this little guy who runs a little elf museum village type thing. And he explains how barn elves work. But at this point, this guy doesn't truly believe barn elves are even real, and no one else does either. Lucas has already told people that this elf is in the barn. No one believes him. But the fact of the matter is, the elf is out there. But the key to this deal is, if you're nice to the elf, he's nice to you. At first, when Lucas meets the elf, he gives him cookies, so the elf's very happy. He chops firewood for the family. He shovels snow, all kinds of stuff for the family because he's happy with the family. But then they end up breaking all the rules of elf life, making too much noise, putting up artificial lights and Christmas decorations, and come to find out barn elves ain't happy with all that. So next thing you know, there's a whole legion of barn elves, and it is survival of the fittest. My personal favorite character from this movie is the police officer lady, who unfortunately dies. But, you know, sometimes when you're fighting a horde of elves, you just get taken out. Anyway, it's not bad. Pretty solid movie, actually. It's not. We've watched way more questionable movies than this one. This one was actually done by an actual production company with like real equipment and whatnot. Some of these movies we've watched have definitely been shot with like a iPhone 8 in the middle of Meridian, Mississippi or something. Yeah, but I'll talk about those on a future episode. Let's have a little sip of bourbon. Ooh. Oh, yeah. So it being barrel proof, the first thing you're going to notice on the nose is the ethanol, the alcohol coming off of it. But after that, some cinnamony vanilla notes come bursting through. Maybe a little bit of, definitely oak for sure. But if your bourbon don't smell like oak, send it back. Don't drink it because, there's that. But other than your oak, I like vanilla cinnamony. It's definitely what's coming through on the nose. Oh, yeah. So the alcohol's there for sure. You get that little tongue tingle. But that's what you want in a barrel strength bourbon. Otherwise, don't drink barrel strength bourbon. Flavor, vanilla for sure. I think it's almost a vanilla bomb. Almost kind of has a little bit of oatmeal raisin cookie essence to it because there is that cinnamony spiciness to it. But it is a vanilla bomb, I think, for the most part. I like it. Very good. Horse Soldier, 8.5 out of 10 on my bourbon scale. That's going to be a new thing too, I think. So 8.5 out of 10. And like I said, this is 3 expressions of essentially the same bourbon. Imagine these boys are hanging out, making bourbon. They think this one is, I don't want to say they think it's the bottom of their barrel, but they're going to put this one out as the everyday approachable version of the bourbon. This is going to be closest to what you're used to drinking if you're just a Woodford guy or like a Four Roses guy. This is going to be what's closest to that for you. And then it's going to go up. This is going to be what they think is, they're going to put this one out as a little bit higher quality. This is going to be more of your like Woodford Double Oak or maybe like Elijah Craig, higher, a little bit higher end than your standard line. Obviously, this is the barrel proof. This is the best of the best. This is where you're going to get the most solid flavor out of their product. That's the one I would always go with, but that's, but if you're not if you're just starting your bourbon journey, start here. Don't think you have to jump straight into this. If you jump straight into this, it's probably going to turn you off because the alcohol content is higher. You may not enjoy that little bit of burn yet. So I don't want anyone to start here because this is going to kill it for you. So don't ever do that. Definitely start one of these two. I would start here if you're at the beginning of your, like if you've only ever drank Jim Beam and stuff like that, jump into something like this. Please don't do this if you're not going to be there yet. You'll get there. There was a point in time when I wasn't here yet either, right? So we all got to get there. But it's good stuff. Definitely love it. Great story. Great guys running the company. Obviously, everything's American. You can look up their story for sure. You can read all about them on their website. They give a very detailed history of the company and what they did in Afghanistan and all of that good stuff. But yeah, so let's talk a little sports here. So football season is winding down. The college football playoffs are beginning to start. And despite a piss-poor performance in the SEC championship game, Alabama, of course, is going to play in the college football playoff. We play against the Oklahoma Sooners in Norman, Oklahoma, coming up next week. Hopefully we get it figured out. I am not solely convinced that Ty Simpson was not injured.
What's with all the rings there,
I think he was not playing his best for sure. But either way, we got to improve from that SEC championship game. That was not going to work out.
The big guy wept a little bit, guys.
Speaking of college football playoffs, Notre Dame fans, you are fired up. And I semi-understand it. But I think your problem is Notre Dame not being in a conference, and then the 2 biggest games you had of the season, you lost. No one's going to be impressed that you beat Air Force and Miami, Ohio, and, Mary Magdalene and the Seven Sisters College for the Deaf and Blind, or whoever wrote y'all.
I'd watch that game.
Point is no one's going to be overly impressed with that. Now, I will grant it. I would have put Notre Dame in the playoff. I don't know why they put Tulane and James Madison in the playoffs. I think only one of those teams maybe should have been in the playoff. I get putting one of them in. I don't know why you're filling 2 college football playoff spots with 2 group of 5 teams that are more than likely not going to make it out of the first round. Like, what are the chances James Madison goes to Oregon and beats the Ducks? almost zero probably. Same with Tulane. Tulane's probably not going to beat Ole Miss. The only chance Tulane has of beating Ole Miss is if the players don't want to play because Lane Kiffin went to LSU. But we'll see what happens. Of course, also NFL playoffs are coming. We still got a few more weeks of regular season there. Falcons suck. They just, they can't see the forest through the trees. They need a whole reset, I think. So we don't have to worry about playoff football in Atlanta. But we're going to see what happens. There's a lot of good teams out there this year. It's hard to just put your finger on one and say who's the best team this year, like I've been able to in the past. If the Broncos look really good, the Patriots look really good, the Rams look really good. Who knows? It's going to be wide open, I think. It's going to be a fun time for sure. One last note in the sporting world. The NASCAR lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit, has been settled. My understanding is the letter by Rick Hendrick and then the testimony of France was terrible for NASCAR, and they had no choice but to settle, which I kind of knew was going to happen. But congratulations to Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan and Bob Jenkins over there. They all three stood up and did what other people wouldn't do, which is took NASCAR to court and said, hey, the teams need to be making more money here. It's a crazy concept to think that we're America's number one motorsport and teams are not making money. That doesn't make any sense. So congratulations to them for doing it. And it worked out. I think it's going to be best for the sport and all of those fans. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this edition of Randy Taste Things. We are back at it. So please like, subscribe, get yourself some alerts. Horse Soldier, get you some of that wherever your local liquor retailer is. I'm sure they have it on the shelf. I can truly only speak for the state of Georgia. I know it's on the shelves in the state of Georgia. If you don't live in Georgia, I don't 100% know.
It's
but I'm sure it's on the shelves in
nationwide.
most places. Especially if it's you live in a not California or something. They may be against it.
It's also available in California.
Hey, what can we do? Anyway, as usual, let's get out there and donate to some charities. Let's help some kids. Let's help some pets. Adopt a kitten, a puppy. St. Jude's Shriners Hospital. There's all kinds
and be good to each
great
other this
things you can
holiday
do in the world.
season. Merry Christmas, guys.
And as always, size matters, and so does the gravy on your biscuits. Boom, I am out.